From handing out $200 million contracts to switching up the rules of golf, LIV has been the epitome of controversy for the sport. Seriously, the pro golfers hate it, and there's a good reason for that. After all, LIV is being funded by the Saudi Arabian government.
Saudi Arabia wanted to use the game of golf as a way for them to get to where they want to be, and they have the resources to accelerate that experience.
Now, it's easy to discard this fact and think that there's nothing wrong with it. After all, plenty of other leagues in different sports are government funded too, right? So what's the issue here? Well, for starters, it's the fact that Saudi Arabia has a really bad human rights record. So much so that the Crown Prince has been accused of murdering a journalist, Jamal Khashoggi. Not to mention so much other controversial stuff that currently surrounds the country's limitless funding in sports. People call it sports washing. You know, trying to improve your image in front of the world by distracting them from the real issues. And to be fair, you can clearly see a pattern here. Soccer, wrestling, F1, you name it, and the Saudi Public Investment Fund probably has a stake in it. As a matter of fact, even people who are a part of LIV Golf aren't too sure about this whole thing. For instance, Mickelson called the Saudi government scary mother effers when he joined the breakaway tour. But of course, he, along with many others, still took the money and joined the league.
I'm sorry for that and for the hurt that it's caused a lot of people.
And this, in turn, made a lot of PGA Tour pros angry. So much that they've started calling the LIV members sellouts. Rory McIlroy, for instance, has criticized golfers for their short-term thinking and being motivated by boatloads of cash. He conceded that everyone has a right to make their own decisions at the end of the day, but still, he was adamant that if your move is purely motivated by money, then you can forget about it going the right way. I mean, he's got a point. A lot of golfers who have joined the Saudi League have been thrown out of relevancy, especially with them not earning the official world ranking points.
Look, my opinion is they shouldn't be here. They've been paid a lot of money to go play on a different tour that is trying to buy the professional game in golf.
And dropping down the order. What's more, the sentiment has been the same for others like Tiger Woods or Colin Morikawa as well, who've said that there's no reason to go to a rival tour just for cash when the best players are still a part of the PGA Tour. As a matter of fact, Woods has gone as far as to say that any youngsters who join LIV Golf are now making a major mistake. After all, there's nothing that can replace the feeling of playing against some of the best golfers in the world in a major tournament.
It's a very good effort. Extremely difficult to control the distance there.
And it's going to move left when it gets on the green, and green running away from him.
And this has truly been one of the biggest issues with LIV Golf, because the league is a divisive force. Seriously, just think about it. If the Saudi League wasn't here, we'd still be seeing stars like Cam Smith and Dustin Johnson teeing it up next to Woods at the Genesis Invitational. And yet, this whole saga has deprived us of that reality. I mean, even Rory's heartbroken by this, saying that he feels betrayed by everyone who has left the PGA Tour. After all, to see some of your closest friends leave you just for the sake of cash probably doesn't feel great.
You know, they can play, and that's, you know, we can't really do anything about that. I can voice my opinion, but it doesn't change anything.
Not to mention, the Irishman also called for peace talks between the two entities, saying that this feud is ripping golf apart. But of course, all of that is easier said than done, because neither Greg Norman nor Jay Monahan is ready to sit down and talk about finding a potential solution. Though, to be fair, one of those guys is definitely more guilty, and that's Greg Norman. I mean, where do you even begin with him? The Aussie is arguably the most controversial figure in the sport right now.
I'm still here. Simple as that. I have full support of my investor. I have full support of my board. Maybe somebody just trying to start a rumor just to try and collapse us internally. That is 100% not true.
Once a legend of the game, he has now turned into a villain in the sport. Not only does he continue to say stuff that sparks nothing but controversy and drama, but he also says it without any remorse. In fact, some would say that he's playing some sort of antagonistic character, because there's no way someone would genuinely dish out personal attacks like he does. Now, to be fair, LIV Golf has sort of been his lifelong dream. After all, he did try to create his own rival tour back in the 90s, but it's the way he defends the Saudi government and everything that's wrong with LIV that irks people the most. For instance, at one point, he defended the Crown Prince by saying that we've all made mistakes. Not sure if an alleged murder is a mistake there, Greg, but sure. With that said, the worst thing about Greg Norman has been none other than his tendency to burn bridges. Like, whether that's the PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan, or other legends of the game.
Top players are making a commitment to play in all 12 elevated events, as well as the Players' Championship, the Masters Tournament, the PGA Championship, the U.S. Open, and the Open Championship.
Like Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy, the Aussie just doesn't have any filter at all. I mean, just recently, he called Woods and McIlroy mouthpieces for the tour, saying that they've got no idea of how any of it works. Not to mention, every single time someone tries to criticize the work he's doing, he always comes back swinging. Now, of course, you could say that there's nothing wrong with defending what's right, but at the end of the day, you've got to remember that he's not any dude saying things. He is the CEO of LIV Golf, meaning that he's got to represent them on the biggest stage. And this whole burning of the bridges has been a massive problem, because now people don't want to negotiate with him. As a matter of fact, both McIlroy and Woods have even called for him to step down from his role, as according to them, he's just not mature enough to lead the league. And if we actually want peace between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf, then someone else has to be at the helm. But of course, if money and Norman were the only issues with the breakaway league, it wouldn't have created this big fuss around it. Instead, the actual problem with LIV is that it's trying to change the game of golf. And by change, I mean literally rewriting the rules. For starters, the league's events have shotgun starts, which means all golfers go at the same time on different holes, rather than having staggered tee times. Sure, it might feel like the better option on paper, but in reality, you just don't get the same final round showdowns this way. What's more, the league is also introducing a franchise format that kind of mimics the NFL or the NBA formula, and it's gonna have teams with 4 players each.
Individual champion, team champion, most prize money, player movement, relegation, events around the world.
Now again, at its surface, there's nothing wrong with it, especially when you've got similar one-off events like the Ryder Cup. But in the eyes of many, including Woods, this can't be the standard format for the game. Though, of course, this isn't even the most egregious thing about LIV's format. Instead, it's the lack of cuts. Seriously, it just eliminates any sort of competition, since everyone knows they're getting a paycheck at the end of the event. Not to mention, they don't even have to perform well to qualify. In fact, Tiger Woods believes it's going to lead to a decrease in performance too. "I just don't understand it," he said. And the proof is in the pudding, because over the past year, we've all seen just how much LIV members have struggled in major events. I mean, take Mickelson, for example. The dude doesn't even make the cut anymore.
The game of golf, I've seen unify and bring people together.
When he won a major not long ago, it's just this whole attempt to quote-unquote revolutionize the sport, especially when it doesn't really need to be revolutionized in any way. And that, folks, is why pro golfers hate LIV Golf. See you in the next one.
That is Mark Leishman on the tee at the par 3-8. Green that angles just the wrong way.
Only one team can win it all.